Later on today, we'll be putting the whole map of the country up, the big one, and what the real totals were. We had everybody today. It's going to be amazing. Today, we're going to really dig deep into the data. You guys are going to have this afternoon about noon or 10:30. You're going to have all the experts showing you what the packet captures, how this stuff works, how collect and all these different things. That's up to them. I'm a cyber expert. I want to say that there's 47 states represented here now. Or 48 states because Rhode Island's with us. Rhode Island! So we've got 48 states. Yeah, 48 states here. In one shape or form, either senators, legislators, delegates, and we're hearing great. Georgia's here. We had Georgia, now we got more Georgia. But that's great. You guys are going to see more today. You're going to see out there. We were viewed by yesterday, in spite of Fox not showing us anything. We had, I think it's about 5 million people that were watching, that watched over an hour, and there was over 40 million people at one point just taking a view and stopping it around the world. So that's really good news. We have some articles that came out this morning before we start today. I just want to tell you what they report. So here's one from. You got Business Insider. They actually wrote something. It was pretty good for them. It was pretty good. Now the Huffington Post, 2 hours ago, we all seen what happened yesterday. Here's what the Huffington Post wrote of all the stuff they watched yesterday. The My Pillow guy ranted against taking a lunch break and invited the audience to vote for CNN or Fox to prove his election back conspiracy. And then they go on to say, Linda vowed to stay awake for all 72 hours. Did you guys hear me say that? No, that's a lie. It's a lie. Then it says, a claim, this is quite a claim for a guy who sells betting. Well, you know what? When I do sleep, it's quality. So, and then you know what? I'll do the one ad since they're hitting me up in my pillow. Go ahead and use the promo code Mike there, Huffington Post. Save up to 66%. At mypillow.com. You can get a great speech.com. But the articles, when you go with the media, I mean, this is what we're fighting. We're up against it. These are the bad actors that are helping the media. So we can't get the word out. And one of the ones I was arguing with last night, once again, the Facebook fact checkers, instant lead stories. Now Martin, he calls up, he's the one that put the stream here over here. The guy says so there's the stream of data that's going out there for 6 states. Remember, I had 50 states where I broke them up and we had a whole bunch of streams we put together that video to run this. Well, 2 of them got put on by mistake, so they're the same one. So we're going to get that fixed and I think it's Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Doesn't mean the data's wrong, but he sure put his Facebook fact checker out there and said everything was false. The data's not false, everybody. The 2 things are identical. So it was putting together the graphic for everybody. But this is what they do. False information. Mike's not wearing a blue tie, he's wearing a red one, whatever. That's what they do. And it's disgusting. And then, of course, they go with the delay. They're all talking about the delay. But there's nothing in here about the evidence, So today, we're going to just overwhelm them with the evidence. And there's going to be about 2-3 hours where you're going to have on stage.
What's the fix? I'm Ben Johnson.
Guys up here that know this world, that live in this world.
From one of the chat channels.
So I'm going to be back.
You probably had a bunch of people say, hey, anyway, appreciate everything you do.
What I'm going to do too is the mock election.
I'm here with Senator Moses from Georgia.
Filming, because one of the things we're going to film there today is I want to show you guys really taking that active capture out and opening it up, having a cyber guy. I want to go around.
Not here in my capacity whatsoever.
And
And we also just passed a motion
then
to volunteer to publish an audit packet.
really make it
Don't
real.
call it an audit packet, but the
And
packet
also people can do it.
is public volunteer to all the materials that everybody's going to have.
Part of that, we absolutely can do
We
that.
just
So what we're
passed
gonna do
that
is,
yesterday.
we're gonna do the mock election, we're gonna bunch of
We're going to information to
pull the back and capture out.
give us about
Then we're
images
gonna
and all
keep
the
it alive to
materials.
what
After
happened.
this is the video, that we do that.
That's what it is, that's what it's like, a picture of time. That's why they don't give you the routers in Arizona. It's like, there's some routers. You know, it's funny, if we had, everybody, all the Secretary of States and state would just turn over the routers for the election and give what, I would take a week for every cyber guy could look at it and say, here it is. It would be so simple, but they got the media has to make it so hard. And the Facebook fact checkers, all these people, instead of trying to open up and see what's there, they just keep saying stuff like this. Mike Lindell says he's going to stay at 712. That's not why we're here. That's not why we're here. And no, you know, it just sensationalism. I haven't seen this another really bad one here. Here it is. Now this is from Salon. This is what I do every week at the start. Zachary Pinstra, he does this just to get his name up there because he has about 3 people that follow. But I'm going to tell you that a lot of other media do this. If Mike Lindell's claims were correct, he puts in parentheses, they're not. Now Zach's here. Okay, shame on Zach. We asked him yesterday to come up when he was in power. He didn't come up. This is the garbage he's writing. I'm not going to kick him out. I just want you to know he's a kid running around here and just writing this garbage when he doesn't realize how he can hurt our country. He's likely broke laws. That's what it says. Mike Lindell's claims were correct. They're not. He's likely broke wiretapping laws. Really, is that great? Why don't you watch the whole symposium? Okay. How would I break the law? I got everything that's brought to me. I got everything that's brought to me. I'll tell you who broke the law, Zachary. The people that did this and the people that were going to melt the machines down and make prison bars out of them. Maybe Zachary will be a good, what do you call that, part of the cover-up. Mike Lindell is still promising data that will serve as absolute proof, blah, 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 the Chinese government. There's no reason to believe that anything from the Pillow King's information is legitimate. In fact, if they were, Lindell's would face very severe consequences. Zach, I got news for you. I've been attacked for 7 months. Bring it on. But anyway, he just wrote this. I'm not going to give his article any more attention because it's garbage. He's a garbage reporter, and this is what's hurting everyone. This is why, remember, everyone, we've had evidence, all of they said yesterday, all your city calls, your Rudy Giuliani's, all of them, everyone, every state, all the states, in Arizona, everybody getting these audits and evidence. We've had it. There's only been one thing blocking it, only one thing, and that's the media and reporters and journalists and social media. And all these things block this, and then you have, as we're finding out, a lot of bad people, which we will find out how bad they are when you talk about when politicians that are Secretary of State, governors, legislators, some of them that are blocking it. And you guys are all here, representing 47 states, but you're going to find out, like we had yesterday, in your own state, you probably all know who the bad actors are, right? And this will all come out. This is all end up going to come out. But I'm going to do some more program, I guess, in about a minute. And try to lose my voice. It will come in. And I just want to say that actually the media wasn't too bad other than that. So maybe they're coming around. I mean, I think the prayer should be for their eyes to be open that this is about saving our country and not about being a journalist to get your name up there. You know, there's this kid Zach just trying to get his name up there. You know, that's the only agenda he's got. I know the kid. It's just you know, that's what he's been doing. Then you have the real bad media that aren't doing anything like Fox. I gotta put that in there again. Where is Fox? You know, today Fox should be live streaming this. What's going to happen today? You want to see stuff today? This is all the people that say, "Oh, Mike's dad is wrong. This dad is wrong. This is wrong." They're always trying to discredit the evidence. Why not look at the evidence? You know, look at the evidence. It's been all the states. You know, why would you block stuff? Arizona, for example. Why block the robbers, Sonny? You guys just keep going. It's like this, and you know, the place we've been in, it doesn't make sense. Here's the end game to look at. Okay, you can take one step, aim at it, stop. You got clearance to go all the way to pick everything up. And it's like walking blood to that point. And they do that to what? To play the stall game. They're going to play the game so the country's destroyed by the time that anything would ever get to work. Just like Dominion yesterday suing Newsmax said, "Oh yeah, we got 2 news outlets that are actually reporting and covering this lawsuits yesterday for them." That's horrific. You get sued because you're filming and they're doing it for our country. You know, and they're going, at least they're not blasting out like a rally. This isn't a rally. This is to get to the bottom of it and try and get the news out there, to get the truth out there. And we're all going to have that. Why don't we get started? Yeah, let's get started. Voice exercises. Okay, we're going to start.
11,000.
Dr. Frank. Come on, okay.
That's pretty cool right there.
Okay, can you say that? Okay, everybody, Kendra's going to lead us in prayer for the country.
Good morning. Thank you guys again for everything you're doing. We appreciate you, all your work, all your effort and time. Thank you so much. Would you guys join me in prayer? Father, in Jesus' name, God, we just praise you today. We worship you. We thank you, God, for all that you did yesterday. Thank you, God, for people being brave yesterday, having courage, standing up, God, speaking truth, not being afraid to say what needs to be said, what needs to be seen, what needs to be known. And God, I'm asking for more of that today. God, in the name of Jesus, would you please allow the truth to come forth now in Jesus' name? You said in the word, "Call to me, I will answer you and show you great and mighty things, even the hidden and the fenced-in things that you don't know." And that's what we're asking for. Would you reveal even those hidden and fenced-in things in Jesus' name? Excuse me. And God, I'm just asking, Father, in Jesus' name, once again, Lord, just keep putting it on my heart, God, and just keep repenting. I do this with you, you know that, but for all of us in agreement. We are acknowledging that we have sinned against you in this nation, God. We have shed innocent blood, God. All the abortions, Father, forgive us, God. Father, in every way, God, we've turned our back on you, God. We're saying we have sinned, it's wrong, and we're coming back. And we want, God, to put you first in every aspect of our lives, in society, in government, in the courts, in education, in the church even, where we haven't put you first, even in your churches, God. God, forgive us, Lord. Take your rightful place in this land, God. Heal our land, God. Your word says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, God, that you would hear from heaven, that you would forgive our sins, you would heal our land. This is what we're crying out for. Would you heal our land? Would you have mercy on us, God? Because apart from you, God, there will be no change. There will be no healing. And we acknowledge that only you can do this, God. Heal our land. Have mercy on us. We're crying out in Jesus' name. I want to read one scripture from Isaiah 60. And this is saying, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and deep darkness the peoples, but the Lord will rise upon you, and his glory will appear upon you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. And this is what we pray, God. God, that we would arise and shine, and let the light of God come on us, and the glory of the Lord come on us, God, that we would take our place and we would live for you, shine for you. We would be loved, God, in this earth, God. Would you enable us to do that? And we thank you and praise you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Thanks, Danny, for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's sing together. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red lamps bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, today we're going to start right away with the movie, and I'm going to talk to you about this movie. If you're out there watching, you need to share this movie this morning. First thing you do, go to frankspeech.com, share it to Facebook, YouTube, everything. By the way, my YouTube channel got taken down. I don't even have it on my phone this morning. Gone. So that's interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's my personal. But I want everybody out there to share YouTube. Share it on YouTube video, even though they take it down. I need to take my whole YouTube down.
I'll use it.
But then, I want you all to share this video you're going to see everywhere in the world, and just keep sharing it. Email it to people, text it to people, whatever you can do. The link, frankspeech.com, is going to be the third thing down that you can keep sharing it. But this says it all right here, where we're at as a country, with China doing the cyber attack. And by the time, and by the way, I said it before, now we have 48 states represented here, 48 Rhode Islands here this morning, and I just want to thank all of you for coming, because all of you love your country. And remember, everybody, instead of just Republicans, we invited everybody. I've got a letter even from Nancy Pelosi, an email saying she could make it. True story, so that's shit, you know. But we invited everybody, and it's been awesome. They can all be here, and I know that the other two states and everybody's watching us out there. But what you're gonna see in this movie is, we ran it yesterday, but it tells where we're at with China coming in and trying to take our country. This is as bad as any other kind of war, and only it's faster. They do it, they just boom, you take our country, and you've got everything with this election. And whether you're a Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. You need to watch this movie, and then you want to get a little bit of fear. That should be the fear of what's here, but don't live in fear of everything that's trying to solve this together. And you're going to see all this today. You're going to see this first, and then you're going to see, we're going to dig into the data today like you've never seen. You're going to have experts up there for at least 4 or 5 hours. And anyway, let's get into the movie. And by the way, the cyber forensic guys that are here, I believe, I'm not sure what time, but we'll come up, make an announcement. You can go to your breakout room. In fact, I think they're open now. You can go there at any time. And then you guys remember, there's all food, everything you want is for the whole day, all the way, as much as you need. So here's the movie. God bless you.
After the 2018 midterm elections, an investigation was launched to delve into irregularities in the U.S. election results. Detailed logs documented entries into the tabulation system for the election itself, and the team saw many anomalies in areas of extreme concern. Then in November 2020, multiple groups of concerned Americans came together because they all observed something incredible in the 2020 general elections. The groups united to launch a full-scale investigation led by former members of the U.S. intelligence community, the Department of Defense, NASA, the U.S. National Laboratories, private investigations and cybersecurity companies, and legal firms from around the country. The discoveries gained through intense forensic research left everyone involved deeply concerned about the future of our nation and our world. While the U.S. media will undoubtedly discredit this information as far-right conspiracy theory, the fact is, the people involved in this investigation represent all colors, all creeds, and all political parties. To ignore this message is to surrender to a government takeover that will gravely affect the lives of every man, woman, and child of every nation. If there ever was an authentic, nonpartisan issue, this is it. In 1970, Henry Kissinger said, "Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world." This concept is critical to understanding the thinking of those who seek to cripple and control everything. To achieve their goal, they've got to disrupt families, divide races, destroy small businesses, dismantle the middle class, and distort the American dream of owning land, a home, and everything necessary for the pursuit of happiness and sovereignty. In collusion with our foreign adversaries, these treasonous few are working hard to tear down the last standing wall between them and their agenda of global domination. That wall is you, the American people. By focusing on specific election system vulnerabilities, our investigation confirmed that the entire U.S. election system is under the total control of private equity firms and foreign money. UBS Securities LLC New York and UBS Securities Company Limited Beijing injected hundreds of millions of dollars into State Street Capital, the current owner of Dominion Voting. UBS currently holds the intellectual property of Dominion as their equity collateral. Up until December 2020, UBS Securities LLC New York listed 3 senior Communist Chinese Party members as being on the boards of both UBS Securities LLC New York and UBS Securities Limited Beijing. The companies owned 75% by the Chinese government. Cyber, the parent company of Clarity Elections, located in Madrid, Spain, a data management and early election night reporting company, went bankrupt in May of 2020 and was subsequently purchased in a closed private equity deal by an Irish company called Paragon. The election sites for numerous counties in the U.S. go from Clarity Elections web address. The counties don't own or control their voting data, and the positions of president, secretary, treasurer, and CEO are all occupied by one man, Jonathan Brill. Brill also happens to be a part of Seidel's senior management team and has run campaigns for Democratic Party candidates. Our investigation also revealed that contrary to the current political narrative, the election systems and their equipment were connected to the internet, making them infinitely hackable.
Voting machines themselves are not connected to the internet.
No, voting machines are connected to the internet.
The devices are not connected to the internet.
They do not connect to the internet.
Those things are not connected to the internet.
The Department of Homeland Security says the 2020 election was the most secure in American history.
The 2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history.
That's what they say now. Just a short while ago, the political narrative was very different.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
We brought in folks who, before our eyes, tapped election machines.
Workers were able to easily hack into the electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to reach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
Remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
Unfortunately, Dominion has recently been thrust into the national spotlight as part of a dangerous and reckless disinformation campaign aimed at sowing doubt and confusion over the 2020 presidential election. First, there were no switched or deleted votes involving Dominion machines. Dominion is not and has never been a front for communists. The company also does not have any ties to China whatsoever, including no ties, including investment or source code transfer. Let me be clear. Voting systems are, by design, meant to be used as closed systems that are not networked, meaning that they are not connected to the internet.
It sounds like some of these machines are sort of tabulators and are connected to the internet.
Throughout, you're going to, particularly where a vote is cast on election day, those machines tend to, it should not be connected to the internet. Certainly isn't best practice.
But some have the capability.
Some may have modems that are typically disabled, but in certain states, I believe in Wisconsin, some are temporarily activated to transmit some counts.
But those tabulators are connected on election day, because that's how they transmit the data to counties and also into the unofficial.
In some cases,
yeah. Okay.
Through forensic analysis of election management system computers in Antrim County, Michigan, affidavits from numerous election officials in Georgia, as well as the operator's manual for Dominion's Democracy Suite 5.5, our teams have gathered indisputable evidence that the entire system can be connected, hacked, and manipulated. And in fact, it was. Here's what triggered this investigation back in 2018. This is the Allied Security Operations Group primary finding in the 2018 governor's race, where a direct flip of 560 votes was made from to Andy Beshear. So that was exactly 560 votes was deducted from that. 560 votes were added to Andy Beshear. This race was decided by a little over 5,000 votes. So this one switch represented about 25% of the margin of the vote.
Andy Beshear has declared victory because he is the leading candidate over a Republican incumbent governor in a state that veteran won by 10 points 4 years ago in the state government.
Here's an example of election anomalies that took place in 2020.
So now we take the ballots from the scanner. It's going to feed these ballots through the scanner. So what we're going to do is we're going to overvote.
What do you mean by that?
Overvote is when if there is multiple people in a section where it says only vote.
So you're scanning the same ballot twice. It's already been scanned once.
So we're scanning them once.
Yeah, so you're scanning the same ballot.
Same ballot twice. We just accepted everyone. That's what I want for the system. There it is. It's pending adjudication. I think I want to vote for Biden. Let's let Biden. and complete.
So you may vote for someone where someone did not vote,
I did.
and you're the election supervisor?
I'm the election supervisor. I am the person that sits and does the adjudication.
All right, board, I'm gonna step outside.
Initiated by a court order, the Michigan investigation team obtained forensic access to a DS-200 tablet, the machine that counts votes. A Telnet 4G wireless chip manufactured in Taiwan was discovered embedded into the motherboard. The voting machine tapes clearly indicate modem engagement and transmission of election data. Some of the anomalies that we noticed in the 2020 general elections, that 5 key states all stopped counting at a certain time in these key battleground states. These were all where the software, the vending machines, ESNS machines were used, the Smartmatic, the GEMS software. So when the vote stopped counting, and this has been noted in other countries as well, President Trump was significantly ahead. When reporting and counting resumed, there was a massive spike occurred that favored Joe Biden. The next major observation the teams made was that there were significant financial transactions from private and nonprofit organizations that had a severe impact on the 2020 general election. As revealed in a Time magazine article in February of 2021, individuals and organizations have been plotting to fortify the election since at least 2015.
This is the inside story of the conspiracy to save the 2020 election, but it's massively important for the country to understand that it didn't happen accidentally. Democracy is not self-executing. There was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protest and coordinated the resistance from CEOs. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans. They got states to change voting systems and laws and help secure hundreds of millions in public and private funding. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election to know, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people, ranging across industries and ideologies, working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. They were not rigging the election. They were fortifying it.
This network influence diagram really shows the interrelationship of money, people, and influence and control between key players and key organizations. Now, there were over 200 nonprofits that we found in this network that are all connected. What's even more troubling is that all of those 200 organizations have received substantial funding from a single source.
All the financial titans and philanthropists of the 20th century, none are more complex or mysterious than George Soros. You're a Hungarian Jew who escaped the Holocaust by posing as a Christian, and you watched lots of people get shipped off to the death camps. And I would say that that's been my character. My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours. Went out, in fact, and helped with the confiscation of property. That sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult? Not at all. Like Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and the Rockefellers, he amassed billions through ruthless business decisions, only to turn around and give away most of his fortune to advance his own personal philosophy. I am basically there to make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do. Do you believe in God? No.
This is not the first time Mr. Soros has been implicated in a plot to destroy a nation. His cover organizations have been banned from several countries for doing exactly what they're currently doing to America. The Philippines, Russia, Turkey, Poland, Pakistan, as well as Soros' own homeland of Hungary, have learned the hard way the true intentions of this ruthless multi-billionaire.
emergency unfolded at the
Okay. Number one, elected George Washington, and they're a major cause of the violence we're seeing, because they keep putting the violent criminals back in the street.
I'm not sure we need to bring George Soros into this. I was gonna get the last word.
He paid for it. I mean, why can't we discuss the fact that millions of dollars he
I agree with what that George Soros doesn't need to be a part of the conversation.
Okay. So it's for vote.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
It was in 2006 when Soros said the main obstacle to a stable and just world is the United States. Translated into truth, that sentence would read, the main obstacle to destabilizing the world is the United States. While Soros is often accused of unfounded conspiracies, that should not detour from the heinous crimes against humanity that he's actually guilty of. Many of those crimes he keeps hidden in plain sight. According to a white paper called U.S. Programs 2015 to 2018 Strategy, Soros' Open Societies Foundation began funding radical operations in Arizona and Georgia in 2015 with the goal of subverting the 2020 presidential elections. Through massive campaign contributions and nonprofit funding, Soros owns and controls countless public officials, university professors, teachers unions, mayors, district attorneys, judges, congressmen, senators, secretaries of state, sheriffs, governors, and electronic voting machine companies around the world. In 2010, George Soros shocked even his most devout loyalists when he declared that China has a better functioning government than the United States. While the Chinese people should be considered friends and allies, the Chinese Communist Party is anything but. The CCP has been plotting to take over the United States for the better part of this last century. Their unconventional warfare principles are barely recognizable to the US population.
America's top intelligence official even went so far as to say, and I quote, if I could communicate one thing to the American people from this unique vantage point, it is that the People's Republic of China poses the greatest threat to democracy and freedom worldwide since World War II.
While we were sleeping, their poisonous seeds planted long ago have taken root and are now in full bloom within US soil. The Chinese government and their operatives are buying up the United States at an alarming rate. Through cover organizations and individuals, they're purchasing American farms and businesses in mass volume. In addition, the CCP has co-opted the US entertainment industry. Chinese firms own several major US entertainment companies and control more than 8,000 American theater streams. Hollywood movie scripts are often reviewed and censored if they pose any threat to the image of the Chinese Communist Party. And many professional sports teams and players are controlled in great part by the CCP.
The pandemic sped up a trend that was already years in the making, and it's brought about another change. The Chinese government's growing influence over the content of these films. That has people worried, including members of Congress, as they point to a growing list of examples of Hollywood seemingly bending to China's will.
Now, here's the case in point. If you're a Hollywood actor, whatever you do, don't call Taiwan a country. Here's WWE star John Cena apologizing for doing just that.
And that's the fear now, because you're now making movies for 16-year-olds and China. And that's it.
LeBron James taking on Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey, whose tweet supporting protests in Hong Kong set off a firestorm between the country and the league.
China announcing this morning they're pulling NBA games from their airwaves.
I want to get into a feud with Daryl, but I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand. Just be careful what we tweet and we say.
Why would the NBA take $500 million plus from a country that is engaging in ethnic cleansing?
They are a customer of ours, and guess what, nigga? I'm okay with doing business with China.
But one of the stark realities of this past year is the clear and present threat that China represents to the United States of America and to the lives of Americans. And it's not just about exploiting the pandemic. China has also potentially compromised Joe Biden's family. Joe Biden, while he was vice president, took billions of dollars in bribes from the Chinese government in the form of payments to his son Hunter's businesses. In exchange, Biden was soft on Chinese military and economic aggression.
This is the reason why I've held the view for so many years and continue to hold the view that a rise in China is a positive development. They're not bad folks, bro. But guess what? They're not a competition for us. And I think that the biggest competitor is China.
Joe Biden had to decide to die, seducing China to own America by 2035. They literally had a stated goal of toppling America as the world superpower. How on earth could Joe Biden, with a straight face, negotiate with a government who's put billions of dollars into his family's businesses?
And finally, overall, you're not going to win the battle for the 21st century if you are a silly people. And Americans are a silly people. Half the countries have a never-ending woke competition deciding whether Mr. Potato Head has We are a silly group. Do you know who doesn't care that there's a stereotype of a Chinese man and the doctor's too small? China. You think China's doing that? Letting political correctness get in the way of nurturing your best and brightest? You think Chinese colleges are offering courses in the philosophy of Star Trek, the sociology of Seinfeld, and surviving the coming zombie apocalypse? Those are real, and so is China, and they are eating our lunch.
China is going to eat our lunch. Man, last night I was on the phone for 2 straight hours with Xi Jinping, and you know they're just get moving. They're gonna eat our lunch. They called a congressional, we had a 2-hour discussion. He's deadly earnest of becoming the most significant consequential nation in the world.
China is currently making big moves to gain control of U.S. port facility operations and already controls the Panama Canal. They're building 5G networks throughout Europe and the West, which can be used to feed personal information and sensitive data directly to the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese government uses commercial software and apps to spy on U.S. citizens and extract their private information.
The CCP doesn't ask them for information. They don't need to. They have access to the information. You see, they're a great disconnector with the American people. These kids who are on TikTok, they're concerned. No, talking about here. Their ignorance of the threat does nothing to diminish it.
It's estimated that at least 80% of American adults have had their private information harvested by China. Big Pharma has exported the vast majority of their production to China. Currently, 97% of antibiotics in the U.S. come from China. 30% of personal protective equipment, such as face masks, come from China. 80% of U.S. imports of rare earth minerals come from China. We have smartphones, electric cars, defense, and other technologies. In 2017, the U.S. produced 0 rare earth minerals. China, on the other hand, accounted for more than 80% of the world's supply. In lockstep with the Mexican drug cartels, 97% of fentanyl, one of the most addictive and deadly drugs, is smuggled into the U.S. from China. People's Liberation Army hackers are executing unconstrained penetration, surveillance, theft, and offensive cyber attacks on U.S. businesses, critical infrastructure, intelligence apparatus, and yes, even the U.S. election system. To ignore this message is to surrender to a government takeover that will gravely affect the lives of every man, woman, and child of every class, culture, and nation. Our goal is to reach and revive the heart of humanity while there's still time. This is your wake-up call.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Morning, everybody.
little bit technical today? All right, today is Revenge of the Nerds. All right, this is where we get to come in and start talking a lot about some details. I know a lot of people have been looking for that, and hopefully we'll disappoint you on that. There's a lot of information to go over today, and suffice to say, a lot of information we're going to be talking about is even better than PCAPs. So please pay attention. We're going to have a nice little panel discussion later on featuring Code Monkey, and also Mark Cook is going to be up here, moderated by Dr. Frank. We're going to have Colonel Phil Waldron playing the role of recon out here with you, so you can ask questions to our technical experts. This is going to be a very interactive forum. We're going to have people feeding questions also to Code Monkey from all over the world on his Telegram account. So there's going to be a lot of work being done behind the scenes. We want to engage it. So if you don't like talking about bits and bytes and code snippets and function calls and all that good stuff, I'm dating myself by saying function calls, but please make sure you save that up for these guys because it's going to be a great display. All right. Now, how many of you guys are here for the first time today? We got any newcomer just for yeah. All right, we got a couple newcomers. All right. What we're going to do is go over in detail, provide kind of the process context for what we're going to be drilling down to from a technical perspective. All right. So I'm going to be at 30,000 foot level, saying here's how elections are run, and then here's how it plugs into the data we're going to be talking about with our technical experts. That makes sense for everybody? Yeah. All right. Once again, my name is Patrick Colbeck. I'm a former Michigan State Senator, but I'm actually an oddball in regard to the fact that I'm also an aerospace engineer and Microsoft certified small business specialist as well. So I've connected a few networks in my time. Although serving the legislature for 8 years kind of dulls those senses a little bit. But the bottom line is, I may not have all the answers on the technology side, but I'm still pretty comfortable that I remember what the questions are. And we've got a lot of folks to ask questions to here today. All right, so first and foremost, everybody got this memorized yet? Back when I was in the legislature, I served as vice chair of the Election and Government Reform Committee in the Michigan Senate. And I took those duties very, very seriously. And what I wanted to do is go off and map out all of our election processes from how do you register a voter to how do you certify an election and everything in between. And what I did is map these all out in process flow diagram because guess what? And I alluded to this yesterday. When I'm an engineer, you have a system that you've designed. We almost always do something called a failure modes and effects analysis. How many people have ever heard of that? All right, is that getting geeky enough for you guys today? Failure modes and effects analysis. Essentially, you're walking through your definition of how the system is supposed to work and then figuring out all the different ways that system can be broken. That makes sense? And that's what we're doing. Now, when I did this initially, all I got through as a senator, because of some other political issues that I won't go into here, I got to define what the processes were for how we're supposed to execute our elections. And if you talk to any election official or clerk, secretary of state, they can tell you all the ways that our election is supposed to work. All right, and that's, frankly, if you look at the Michigan Senate report that came out saying that there's no election fraud, all they did really is talk about how the election is supposed to work. Well, I was a poll challenger at the TCS Center in Detroit, as I was telling you. I've seen how the election actually did work, and that's not always congruent with how it's supposed to work. And so what I've done since the election in 2020 in November is started mapping a lot of the evidence that we have to that original diagram on how elections were supposed to run, then started identifying some different pathways on how the election could be actually subverted. So on this diagram, you don't have to read all the tabs. So if anybody's really stringing in the over 50 crowd like I am, so you have to carry around these glasses everywhere you go. Don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about that. But you should be able to tell the difference between white, yellow, and red. So anything in white is the way it's supposed to run. No big news. We've actually seen tasks or artifacts that are actually represented in white here. Anything in yellow, okay. Unless you actually demonstrate chain of custody around them, I mean, you got to do a forensic audit. That could be subverted or it could not be subverted. So it's got a cautionary flag on it. Anything that you see in red, pretty clear indicator that you've got an item of election fraud. And I've got this map, just so you guys know, it's up in the mock election area. You guys can walk through it. You can also see it up on my website at letsfixstuff.org and download it. It's version 1.0 because just like all good engineering design and software code, you iterate as you get more information and refine your model. So many of you may have more refined models that you can add to the discussion. That's great. Add it to the discussion. Let's get it moving there. Ultimately, we need this framework because what it allows you to do now is take all the evidence that we've collected from all the different states and start putting it against a concept of operations. How was the election actually sold? Does that make sense? And anybody in the military, and you're in a great military facility. By the way, round of applause for our host. This is a great facility. And as an aerospace engineer, I love seeing the new Space Force logo. So anything that we're seeing in red, bad deal. And I'm mapping evidence to these particular process tasks and artifacts. All right, so we'll have affidavits. I've got sworn affidavits mapping to this. But this is a little bit complicated, right? It's a little bit much to get your arms around. It's kind of daunting for a lot of folks. So instead, what I've done is try to simplify this for the purpose of discussion. So when you're on a radio show or a TV segment, I'm not really going to get all the way from the upper left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner and diagram that out for people, right? So what I've done is try to simplify it into a topic of chain of custody. Now, many of you are familiar with the term chain of custody when it comes to criminal court cases, right? And in a criminal court case, if you, as a prosecutor, can't demonstrate that the chain of custody around evidence that would be used to prosecute a defendant has been maintained, like fingerprints on a gun, where lots of people could have been touching it, then what happens is, if you're a good judge, you're going to throw that court case out, right? Well, in our election in 2020, we need to demand that the chain of custody is actually preserved around all these election artifacts, or else we can't have any confidence that this election ever should have been certified. And I can tell you that in Michigan, I've got evidence that the chain of custody was broken everywhere. So, what is this chain of custody? First and foremost, the top link on this chain of custody is what we call in Michigan our qualified voter file. That's the state voter registration database. That's a complete listing of all the voters all the people that are eligible to vote in your particular state. That's at the top of the chain of custody. The next link in the chain of custody is that of the poll book. And in simple terms, all a poll book is a precinct-specific extract of the qualified voter file. If you've got garbage coming into it from the qualified voter file, it's going to be tough to separate out the garbage at the poll book level. Does that make sense? And this is where a lot of our local clerks pick up the ball. So our state Secretary of State is typically who manages the statewide qualified voter file. Then they take instances of that. Usually if it's electronic poll book, they'll download an instance of electronic poll book, or they'll print out an instance of a filtered PDF of that particular precinct or poll book right before the election, because this is a very important tool for the poll workers. This is their way. This is like a firewall into our election system from a techie perspective. This is who determines who gets a ballot, who doesn't get a ballot, whether it's absentee or whether or not it's in person. The poll worker is the gatekeeper, and the tool that they use to manage that gate is this poll book. So if you've broken this link in the chain of custody, you just opened up the whole corral so that anything can get inside to our election system. And that's important because guess what the next link in the chain of custody is? Ballots. A lot of people are very confident that we have a high integrity election system because they just recounted all the ballots and it's exactly what they said at the statement of votes, so everything's good. Wrong. If you broke in the QBF and you got fake voters in there like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and then you've got secretaries of state like my state in Michigan saying, don't worry about that pesky signature verification, that's all outdated. So when these absentee ballots come in, the poll workers are sitting there taking out their main tool to go off and verify the identity of somebody when they get in there. You're already broken 2 links coming into this chain of custody on the ballots. That recount doesn't mean a hill of beans. All right? You can't tell me what the difference is between a fraudulent ballot and a real ballot at that point in time. So I appreciate some folks that want to focus in on the ballots and do a forensic audit of ballots themselves. That's nice, but it's not complete. And we need to make sure everybody understands that. Make sense? All right. The last link in the chain of custody, and this is why I was thrown around the floor out of the TCS Center in Detroit, was around vote tallies. And I wanted to make sure we understood where all these nice little votes coming from these ballots that were sent through this tabulator scanner, I wanted to understand exactly where those votes were going and how they were being communicated. So every single link in this chain of custody in my home state of Michigan, I can attest to was broken. And we have these little evidence cards out in the mock election area. You guys can see. It's just a primer, a summary of some of the breakages in that chain of custody you guys can go off and take a peek at. And for every one of those links, or every one of those bullet points on that card, you can link to one or more affidavits, exhibits in court cases, analyses. The intent of that is to sit there and debunk the quote-unquote debunkers that say that there is no evidence of election fraud. I tell you, that is something that gets the hair up on my back more than somebody saying that there's no evidence of election fraud. You may disagree with the implications of some of the evidence that's out there. That's fine. Let's have a discussion about that. But you cannot say that there is no evidence of election fraud. All right, that's my fancy graphic to demonstrate that if you break one link, you've broken them all. But in our case, we can show that every single link was broken in that chain of custody. All right, now why is that important? Because those links in the chain of custody represent data transfers, and that primes us for our technical discussion later on. Everything is governing a data transfer. In that process flow diagram, every handoff from point A to point B was a data transfer. When it comes to chain of custody, you want to make sure that you've got a check in, a check out. Kind of like from the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. That's what we're trying to do. If you want to maintain chain of custody, you've got to maintain check in, check out. That's why we have things called seals on ballot boxes, right? So you got to maintain that. There's a lot of handoffs. So not only are there the process handoffs we're talking about, but our basic building blocks for our election systems in America are something called precincts. Those are the Lego blocks, if you will. That's where all the core data is done. That's where you validate it at the lowest common denominator. But they hand things off to municipal clerks, like cities and townships. Then they hand off to counties. Then they hand off to the state. In the case of federal elections, there's some people in D.C. that might want to find out what the results are as well, right? But there's a hierarchy to all this. But it all starts with that basic Lego block at the precincts. Let's zero in on just one of those links in the chain of custody, because it's something that is kind of what everybody is staying up late at night on election night to find out and follow up on, right? And that's the vote tally. How do you get that vote from that pesky little ballot all the way up to the media who's printing out who's winning? Well, here's a diagram that I've been working on and capturing for a while here. And essentially it starts off with your ballot, right? With your vote tally. You go in and you scan those ballots. Now, if you're voting in person, you're going to do it typically you're going to feed it yourself. You've got a DRE. There should be some sort of printout validation of what you voted or whatever that you can carry forward. I think DRE stands for Direct Record of something or other. We just make up acronyms. We don't have to spell them out as engineers. So, poll-based voting, you're the one actually scanning it there, so the voter's there. So if you have a problem feeding it where it doesn't recognize the ballot, you can correct it right then and there. When it comes to mail-in votes, however, not so much. That voter's not there. That voter's not in the room. And so either your local clerk is adjudicating it, or you've got a team of, supposedly in Michigan, according to statute, which, by the way, is the way things are supposed to work, but didn't happen in the last election. You have a Republican and a Democrat looking at an adjudicator screen saying, I think that the person wanted to vote this way, not this way, and they get to be the voter in that case. So the bottom line is the voter, when it comes to absentee voting, which is where we're most vulnerable to a lot of election fraud, that adjudication is not done in the presence of the voter. So whatever comes out of that adjudication now becomes the ballot, right? And now becomes the vote that is being counted downstream. That information is going to go up to a municipal data center, like we're showing in the previous diagram. And then they're going to pop it up, oops. They're going to pop it up to the county data center. And then they've got these things called vote aggregators or data aggregators, companies like Cytle that are pulling all this information in. And then from Cytle it'll go to another data center like Edison or Clarity, and then that's going to feed that information out to media outlets like the New York Times. And that's where you get all the election night reporting is through this. Now, theoretically, those vote tallies are only pushed out when you've got a certified vote tally, right? So you finish the precinct. Here's the way it works in most cases. The precinct workers will come together at the end of the night. They'll sit there and say, you know what? Let's go off and we're closing the polls. Let's go off and run the tape, see what the vote count was on it, make sure it matches what's in the poll book. And they're supposed to match the number of votes that you have. Ballots cast is supposed to map to the number of votes that are supposed to be cast in the poll for the poll book. And if you do that, then they're balanced and life is good. Then they put it onto a nice little USB flash drive, seal it up in an envelope, and transfer it out to All Points North. Some places decide that they're a little antsy. They want to find out what the results are before they've actually been signed off and certified and put it onto a flash drive. And so they'll actually connect it to the internet and share stuff beforehand. And we're going to go over why where some of the vulnerabilities come in. Remember, it's about data transfers. Every single point of this should be a check-in, check-out. So, what are the different data transfer methods? Okay, well, that typical precinct that we just outlined, it's a person-to-person physical handoff. You seal up the USB flash drive, and you're using what they call, in technical terms, it's called sneaker net. All right? So, because you're walking it over to the person, you don't have to be in sneakers in order to do it. The next way to communicate it is with wireless communications. All right, and as we proved yesterday, wireless communications is the most secure method of communicating, right? Would it take 5 minutes from the break into our wireless network back there? The next way is via hardware connections. All right, and that's the most secure way. That's what they essentially had out in Detroit, and that's why I was checking all the cables going to routers up in the city of Detroit. I want to point out something very important. A lot of vendors, a lot of election officials will make the claim that you're only vulnerable when you're connected to the internet during tabulation. How many of you guys have heard people say that? Wrong. And the data that Mike's got in his data set is from before the election and after the election, as well as on election night. That tells me somebody's been active more than during tabulation. All right? You are vulnerable anytime between the equipment certification and the certification of that election. That makes sense? So don't fall for we weren't connected during tabulation. If you're messing and connecting this thing to the internet beforehand, then you're in trouble. All right, but can we secure the data? All right, they say we have an air gap. Yep, you can secure it via something called a VPN. You can secure it via firewall, control the flow of information. You can secure it with locks in a secure compartment. You can secure it with security personnel. So it is possible to go off and secure it. So that's just a quick walkthrough of the process part. Stuff you're going to be seeing here is what happens when they intercept that data transfer, and you're going to see a lot more information than that today, because you're going to actually go into the code base and see how they're actually running the elections into this, from what I understand. Or not necessarily the code base, but I think that's available. We'll see where the questions take us. But they've got a plethora of data for all of us to go through in a little bit. We are still going to be doing the mock elections, so I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. Today is going to be Social Media Tech Giant Day. So we're taking a little bit easy on the cable news networks, and we're going to talk about Facebook and Twitter. Which one has the worst censorship policy? I think that's the question here. So anyway, you guys get a chance to go off and vote on that, and I appreciate all you participated yesterday on that. We're going to be back in that mock election room there, and there's roles that are going to be played. You here are going to be our voters. We got a poll worker back there for clerk, and then some nefarious black hat actor that remains nameless. Basic process is cast a vote, scan a ballot, tabulate vote, transfer vote tally, and then hack the vote. This is a little bit simpler than that first diagram I started with. All right. So anyway, that's a quick overview. This should prime the pump. We're going to have some great discussion here. For those of you who like digging into the bits and bytes and the technical jargon, these guys are phenomenal. We're going to have Code Monkey chiming in via remote connection. He's going to have access to a virtual machine that's going to go through actual electronic voting systems and images of that were used in the last election. He's also going to be sitting here moderated by Dr. Doug Frank. And then also, we're going to have Colonel Phil Walker. Hey, he's going to be out here with his mic, with a portable mic. There it is. With the ability to go around and let you engage in the question. All right, so we're going to get things set up, and then once we're all set up here, get ready for a long session here, delving into the details, the technical details of how elections are run. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to the one, the only, Dr. Doug Frank.
I don't know what I'm doing. Hey, we're hooking up all kinds of cool stuff. This is going to be really technical, and my job is to make it less technical, so that you can understand what you're seeing, what's going on. So there's kind of like there's three crowds out here. There's the street mountain crowd. There's the political politician crowd. These are good ones here. I'm very pleased to meet several of them. And then we also have the geek squads. And the geek squads were, most of yesterday were hanging out in the back, looking at data. Well, this morning, they're going to be with us in here. And up on the screen, you're going to see a secret programmer known as Dodo is going to be live here. And we've got this set up here, so we've got multiple screens, and the geeks are going to have their laptops out here, and we're all going to be interacting, and you're going to see us work with some very cool data. Data that are way more cool than these matters. So, we were supposed to show you some of this last night, but I know there was a good situation. So right now, while we're getting all this stuff down and getting all our technical geeks together, that's what's happening. You've seen everybody be ready for it. I'm going to tell you a couple of things. So this is, as I mentioned yesterday, I've been going around the country preparing politicians and organizing their supermoms underneath them, so that what will happen is when a politician goes forward to the legislature and says, we need an audit, and here's why, there's a whole upwelling of supermoms underneath them that lowers everywhere. Because it doesn't work, absolutely, it doesn't work when you just have a legislature running in front of a person in the legislature saying, we need an audit, it's like running in front of a machine. They really need the moms underneath that they gotta have. So that's why it's a concerted effort, and maybe we started hitting some real good bullseyes lately. So that's what it's about. So what we do is we set up a room for the super moms, and Lacey's in charge of it, and you go through this back door here in the back corner. Oh, there's Lacey, where's your name, Lacey? Lacey Clark, she's from the state of Washington. She's kind of like top mom, even though you're all tops in my place. And you go back corner, we set up a room for you to open. Oh, thanks, buddy. This is awesome. He doesn't give enough applause. This is all new. Okay, all right. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, back corner. So during the day, they say, hey, everybody come back and network with me. We originally planned a ballroom in the Ramada, I think it was, where you ladies could eat, but we didn't know the venue well enough. Our new plan, since this is a good situation, is for you supermoms to be able to network there. We also have another room where you politicians can network. Yeah, yes, you're here. All right, so then, politicians, what Patrick just provided for you is your script. You need that. You need to write down letsfixstuff.org. Letsfixstuff.org. And Pat is a patriot. I've worked with him since March. And he will help you. Keep in mind, he's a former state senator, 2 terms. So he knows your issues. He knows what you need. And so if you have him coaching you, if you have our legal teams coaching you, if you have our supermom supporting you, you are equipped. You are ready to go. And I've repeatedly said I'm happy to come to your state and privately meet with you first and plan your attack. And then that way when you launch, it's all good. We can Zoom if you want, but usually it's better in person. And then if you need money, we can do fundraisers. Sometimes Mike will come, sometimes I can come, sometimes we can get some of our other popular speakers to come. And you can hold events, start $10 a piece and raise money if you need money. So that's another thing to do. All right, I think I've done that pretty well. All right, so Patrick basically talked about the chain of custody. That's a good way for you to talk. You politicians, you can say we broke chain of custody. Here's an example of that. So I've been going around talking to precincts around the country, and I'll say, hey, your election was hacked, and I just love when you have these grandmas, exactly what I'm talking about. They're working the polls, and they've been working for 50 years, and they're patriots, they're beautiful human beings, and they're like, tell me my election was hacked. Because, dude, I follow every rule, I dotted every I, crossed every T, and they are so patriotic, and they go through every step of the way, and I have zero doubt in my mind that they follow that to the left. Zero doubt in my mind. And so, it's like it makes me proud of us listening to them talk. And then I'll say to them, well, okay, so tell me what you do at the end of the day. You heard Patrick summarize. Oh, and they can break the rules sometimes. They print their tapes, they tape the tapes on the outside of the building, they've got their jump drive, they're ready to go. Or someone can actually call the number saying, right? And then they turn in their numbers essentially. And then I'll always say to them, then what do you do next? They say, I go right home and I turn the TV on to see how the election's going to come out, right? Or they go to the internet to watch the numbers coming in. They're patriotic. They did their part. Now they're going to see how it's going to come out. It's like a horse race, right? They come and watch the race. And then I say, yeah, but you turn in your numbers, right? Yeah. Did you ever call and make sure they have the right numbers? And they look at me like, how would I do that? They don't even have the ability to do that. Think about that's one of those chain of custodies that Mike Patrick was just talking about. Wax on, wax off. How, in other words, these beautiful human beings who work so hard all day to make sure everything is meticulous and perfect, have no way to know 5 minutes later if the numbers are transferred properly. They have no way to audit it. Most of the time, when it goes to the county level from the precincts, it's convoluted with other precinct numbers. And with the mail-in ballots, since the precincts are not handling, and they have no way to know whether their numbers are good or not. See that problem? That's one of those chain of custody things. So that's a perfect illustration of the chain of custody. I like that one because it's a simple example that I think everybody relates to. Tomorrow, Mike is going to describe a system that he's been presented as a potential way for us to fix our elections. And I haven't looked at it myself, so I'm not going to say whether I like it or don't like it. But I have, a lot of this is about perception, a lot about this is marketing. My favorite thing to tell people when they say, how do we fix this stuff? Is I say, you gotta vote on it. You gotta vote on it. It's a simple thing to say. And the honest vote on paper and there's no electricity. So it's that simple. You gotta vote on it. When I was a boy, the PTA moms used to come around the neighborhood and knock on the doors. Remember that? They had the paper pulled in their hand, and they would say, okay, well, Mr. and Mrs. Frank live here, okay, you're registered to vote straight. And don't forget to come out on election day, Mr. Frank, you sign here, so they went around to every residence in every precinct and verified every person was real. Then on election day, Mom would take me by the hand, a little boy, and she would take me to the polls with her, and those same two ladies would sit there at the polls, managing the polls, right? And I would see my mom and dad, they would sign in, and I would watch them vote. That's a secure election. You verify every voter. They came in, they voted, everything's on paper. Nothing is vulnerable to electronic centralization. I'm a computer programmer, I use electronics, and all that. I do not trust anything electronic. I do not trust anything on the internet. And I'm an expert in it. And I don't think there's any way I can secure it. Okay, and I'm good at that. So money is out. I went to the communities in the country. We had 60,000 people who, by the way, came out and voted for the first time in 2020, and they voted for Trump in massive numbers. They were amazing. Well, they have one attorney for the whole population, and I have a cell phone number, and of course I called it multiple times, and of course it's always off. But they have one attorney for these 60,000 people to represent them. I keep trying to get all of them. I want to get him and I want the honest people in Ohio to vote on this. And I want to kind of use it as a marketing strategy. So hopefully, maybe that will catch on. All right, so I've covered that. I talked about Supermom. Okay, what's going to happen next? They're still setting up all the technical stuff. Is that right? How long? Much longer do you think you're ready? How much? Yeah, he says he needs a minute. That's fine. Nothing technical ever goes smoothly. Yeah, smoothly. Usually I have stuff. Okay. Nice to see you, Mark. Mark's one of my favorite celebrities. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. Because you're about to show them. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to tell you something. And I might get in trouble. Okay. So remember how I told you that around the country we had sympathetic clerks? We've been able to do full forensic imaging of machines before, during, and after the elections since the 2020 election. I would like to have access to a machine, a whole set of machines, a whole system. You go in and you record absolutely everything that happens. Then the company that makes the voting machine comes in and programs the machine. You want me to hold on? No, I'm sorry. It's the one I control, but I will. And then they come in and program the machines for the election. And then a forensic image copy is made of all the machines. So we know everything that was put into the machine. Thank you. I get around with this. Cool. This is going to happen shortly. And after, then during the election, since we know all the back doors, since we imaged it in the beginning, we tracked it. And then after the election, the voting company comes in and erases everything. And we do a complete forensic audit and track the fact that hasn't happened, which is illegal. We have it. And I think today, you're going to see two of those. I think that's what we're about to show you. And that's way better than we have. Way better. So that's what we're going to show you right now. And all our technical people out here are going to go crazy. And they've already seen some of it last night I talked to them. And they're like, we're not going to bed tonight. That's how excited they are about it. Okay? So you're going to watch them dissecting it, discovering it, showing it in real time. This is happening now. This is not a prepared presentation. You're going to watch it actually happening. Some people say, show us the evidence, show us the evidence. You are seeing it in real time happening. This is history right now. That's what's going to happen. You ready? No. 5 or 6 more, he says it's totally fine. This is smart. Thank you. Okay. So, anybody out there have a question right now? Yeah. You can't hear me? Okay. So what we're going to do then is let's figure this out together because there's going to be so much happening. Whoa. I got loud all of a sudden. Did I get louder? Is that better? Okay. Maybe we should sing together. Roll, 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 roll. Okay. Land. Stand beside her and guide her through the night. Mountains to the prairies and the ocean, like before. God bless America, I hope to see more. God bless America, I hope to see more. I'm going to move over here, although I don't know if this works, because I don't get to see the screen real time. Okay, thank you for the idea, that was fun. I was a choir director for 40 years. Then I left 4 years ago because my church went apostate. And I just couldn't see in democracy anymore. And it was kind of a statement for me because, you know, I can do something I love for 40 years. It's kind of a bummer. So walk away. Yes, dear.
Radio station. So I'm going to be over 195 space in there.
Okay, I'll talk about that. That's a good thing to talk about while we're waiting. It's a great question. A lot of people ask me this question. The question is, if Dr. Frank, you've done all these analyses of all these states, I'm not I am repeating right now. I'll say, hey, Dr. Frank, you've done all these analyses of all these states for 2020. Can you compare the data you see to an election where there isn't fraud? In other words, find a state where there isn't fraud. I spent a lot of time trying to do that. All of January. That's why I was starting to second guess myself, because I couldn't find any place where there wasn't any fraud in 2020. However, I was working on Pennsylvania at the time, so I started gathering the data. That is a very big job. It took most of January for me to do this, and I got the data from Pennsylvania all the way back to 1990. And I started modeling the data. This is weird. It seems like I'm hearing feedback. Model all the way back to 2020, and 1990, and you could see that there was no algorithm back in 1990. There was a massive in Pennsylvania. There was a massive insertion of registered voters in 1996 in Pennsylvania, and then you can start to see things starting to behave in unusual ways. By 2008, the correlation coefficients were above 0.5. By 2012, my correlation coefficients were about 0.7, 0.8. And what happened in 2008? Voter, which instantly inflated the registration rolls all across the country. So 2008, you can see the R factors coming in. By 2016, we were already about 0.9 correlation coefficients. 2020, now you saw my 1.0, essentially, everything's essentially. So you have to think about the question. As a scientist, you say, well, what would be your control? What would you compare? How would you see what an election would look like without fraud? Find me one. And how would you know there wasn't fraud? It's sort of a problem, isn't it? How do you know that you have a clean election compared to? So the question sort of begs the question. The question itself begs the question, what are your assumptions? How do you know it wasn't fraud? How do you know it was? Did I answer your question? So what I've done is I've shown you, to illustrate that idea, to illustrate the idea that things changed over time, I've shown Pennsylvania District 4 since 2000, a beautiful three-dimensional graph, and I put it on and follow the data with Dr. Frank Telegram and show you that graph. So you can just see it growing in. You can see the algorithm growing in over that period of time. It's every 2 years I've shown the data. It's a large job to do that. I mean, just find the data for a state for 2020 is really hard, much less finding it for every year going back. So it's a big job, and I've only done it in 2 states. I did it in Ohio back to 2000, and I did it in Pennsylvania back to 1990. In Ohio, it was really particularly difficult because in 2004 and 2006, the Republicans won the elections. The Democrats accused the Republicans of stealing the election fraud, and all those records have been deleted from the whole state in 2006. And so it's very interesting that there are all these lawsuits and now all those records have been purged. So I have not been able to get those data. And that was the moment at which I realized when I was doing that, maybe this isn't just those people Democrats. And then now that I'm my Secretary of State in his office in the state of Ohio, I am convinced that this is not a Republican and Democrat problem. This is an establishment technocrat versus Republican. If I learned anything, if you learned anything last year, and this is no insult to our politicians that are here, if you learned anything at all, you learned that you never, ever give power to the government. Even for a month to flatten the curve. Never. Because you never get it back. You have to fight to get it back. And it's a serious fight to get it back. And all you have to do is look at the debates going on now about schools opening and closing, the environment, all that sort of thing. It is a huge fight to get our schools back, to get our communities back, to get our businesses back. You never get power of the government. Well, guess what? Our governments have owned our elections for 20 years. So this is not going to be as easy as telling you to jump the leg about masks. That's a new thing, and it made all of our super moms angry, and our super moms are basically rebelling, and you should rebel too, and not take their stupid jab and not wear their stupid masks. But you also have to not vote their stupid way. The problem is we've been voting their stupid way implicitly, incrementally for 20 years, and it's really hard to undo that. So it's just going to be a big transition, and you need to make a stand, and you need to say, we're not going to do it. And I think one of the best weapons in your arsenal is your sheriff. If you have a strong sheriff in your county, if you have a weak sheriff, you're in trouble. But if you have a strong, maybe you can fix that problem first. But if you've got a strong sheriff, for example, there was a recent example where a county I know in Ohio was saying, we're not going to vote with electronic databases anymore, we're going to go completely paper. The Secretary of State says, oh yeah, here are your new machines that I just bought. And so the sheriff said, by all machines you want, we have keys in the building. So your sheriffs are your allies, because they're the defenders between you and the tyranny of government. I see your hand, sir. Mr. Hack. Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. Walk through a scenario where the aggregators will see a decrease in the vote count. In which scenario would there be a decrease? You have to realize something about, and this is something I think a lot of discussion about, that most of what you see in real time is from the Edison feed. All the calculators and counties and news bureaus and media subscribe to this service, which collects all the information and reports it. And there's chain of custody issues all over the place in there, and there's mistakes all over the place in there. And so the problem is you try to make some argument on that, they'll just say, well, yeah, we made a mistake here, we made a mistake here, and so and so I really like the Edison data for hard evidence. I like it for corroborating evidence. So if you could say, hey, look, we've got some electronic information that suggests that this is both that's here, or this is there. And by the way, here's the Edison feed that exactly lines up. I don't mind that a bit, but I don't like to start from the Edison feed and work back as evidence. Does that make sense? Did I answer that well? Hey guys, we ready? Okay, we're gonna check out here with Ron Coleman. Oh, okay, I'm gonna be technical. Hey, now, can you get audio from the laptop over to this laptop? Thanks for very much. Last week, so with that, what I do have is I actually have and he's never seen one.
Okay, Ron, go ahead.
That's Mark.
Recently, I heard publicly available files that brought to my attention. These files are allegedly forensic images of the Mesa County, Colorado Dominion election meeting.
Wait, before he starts, I think it's like 2 weeks. Does he need to be louder? We need to go on code.
Here, Ron, hold on. Turn your speakers off.
My speaker, I'm using headphones.
By the way, this is Mark. This is Josh. And what should we call him? Ron. Mark, Josh, Ron. And see that you are. Yes. Thanks for being here.
Okay, Ron, go ahead.
Greetings. My name is Ron Watkins. And recently, a pair of publicly available files were brought to my attention. These files are allegedly forensic images of the Mesa County, Colorado Dominion election management system. I have not seen these files yet. The EMS is where votes are stored, tallied and prepared to a final report and a statement to the county. You can think of it as something like a mainframe for the voting systems. Some people might ask, well, what's a forensic image? And a forensic image is a special container that can hold all of the data inside of the computer in a special way that makes it tamper-proof. So what we're seeing is allegedly exactly how it was on the machine that it came from. From what I understand, we have two images, and one of them represents before a software update, and one of them represents after a software update. So we're going to be able to see what changes on the Dominion systems, on the Dominion election management system during the software update. And from what I've been told, the one that is pre-software update has election data going back to the year 2019. I haven't confirmed that, but I've just heard that. So we're going to be looking into this and dissecting it and spending the next few hours trying to see exactly what's going on inside these systems.
Can we pause there?
Or
summarize?
If you guys are interested, so please go.
Summarize there, Mark. We have an image before a software update and an image after a software update. Explain what a software update is to everybody.
Okay, so what a software update is a new version of the software. We don't know exactly what this is yet. All we know, what we've heard, is that there is an image of a computer before someone sat down in front of it and made changes of some sort.
When you say an image of a computer, you mean?
It's a computer.
So the issue is that I can't hear what you guys are saying.
What did you say? That's okay. We're explaining what you just explained, Ron, to them. So just wait a minute.
Okay, Ron.
Oh, good.
Okay.
This is what you
So the image of the computer is basically a full copy of the hard drive, everything around all the programs, all the data, everything. It's a forensic image is one that cannot be manipulated. It's one that can be used in the law. So there is apparently a forensic image of a Dominion EMS server before a Dominion employee did something to it, and then there's an image after that. So what we're going to see, hopefully, is the difference between the two of those. So we're going to be dissecting those. Our cyber guys are going to be dissecting those. It's going to be interactive. So we're going to enlist them to help, and we're going to look to see why they would have made changes to this system. What is it about this system that they were trying to change or why it was delete? So we're going to determine that today in the next 4 hours.
Good job. Thanks, Mark.
And what do you think?
Alright, so let's see, for a sec here. We're looking at the button. So that's great. You guys are asking some feedback. I'm not hearing it.
Okay, the before image.
And he noted, by the way, that he found files dating back to 2019 in the first image.
I have no idea.
I thought I heard him say that. That's okay.
Okay, let's go through it wrong.
Let's see what is in there. Did you find like the SQL database on there? Or actually, maybe we should start. We should look for internet connectivity first. Is it possible to check the network logs to see if
what kind of networks these were connected to in the past, if any. Oh wait, there won't be any. That's fair.
You guys get a mic on.
I'm not hearing you guys, so.
Hey, Mark. Could we check the ones for any, Ron, can you hear me?
Hear anything you guys are saying?
They're working late. This information, as well as the answer information, will be available. This information, as well as the answer information, will be available. I mean, this again this was a publicly available file that found yesterday afternoon, last night, and we'll be able to point you where that file was. Several of you asked, well, can we see this? Can we look at it? Can you do the before and after comparison, write a program, write a script to do the forensic comparison. So that's the intent. I know several of the legislators asked. Ask, what can we take back to our states? What can we take back to our secretaries of states to say, this is what we need to look at? So the reason that this is going through is you can actually look at this forensic analysis, see what's done before and after, and the reason you need to do a forensic analysis to look and see what are in the logs, security logs, the communication logs, the update, security update logs. So all the things that they're going to go through are going to give you what you need to go back and put into your counties or your secretary of states, and really show how vulnerable these systems are. And again, whether it was Antrim County, Michigan, which the breakout teams, I understand that one breakout room yesterday was able to get that image, and hopefully this afternoon the other breakout room will be able to get that image. You'll be able to see two actual server logs of what to look for. What if you've got a local cyber forensics team that's able to get in there and look at a machine based on the county judge's order, the commissioner's court order, whatever is your controlling entity, you'll have the ability to know what to look for and to know what you're looking at. So this will be like a training book on how to look at the server logs.
Thank you for walking. By the way, I understood that when one of these election companies contact the Secretary of State or the county office, or they say, we're going to come in and do an update. And they advise the clerk to do a backup first.
Yes, under Title 42 U.S. Code, Section 1974 through 1974, if I remember correctly, lays out the requirements for federal records retention for any federal election. It specifically says, and that depends on how your state laws are written, but it specifically said all records and papers of any election, which involves a federal official, senator, congressman, president, and all the federal officials, must be retained for 22 months, and allows a penalty of $1,000 and a year in jail for every violation. So every violation, every distinct violation. So that's how your state's either constitution or election laws are written. That's the ammunition, or that's the impetus for your attorneys general or district attorneys to take what you find and actually hold people accountable to our Constitution. And that's really what this is all about. It's a important civil right that each one of us have. So if there are 10,000 fake votes injected into election,
No,
there are, I think it's Title 42, USC Section 1974 to 1974 Echo. And I'm sure somebody can confirm that. You fast-fingered Google phone guys, you probably verify that. Just make sure I'm not off by a couple of digits. But that's the ammunition, that's the basis of fact that where people need to be held accountable. Because again, if there's 10,000 fake votes, that's 10,000 civil rights violations. That negates 10,000 legitimate votes, and that's not right. That's not the way our founders said it could be. That's exactly the point. If the laws are not enforced, then we are not a country. We're not a republic. Republic is, actually, in Texas, the Attorney General has prosecuted and sent penalties and jail times. I know prior to this last election, there were 3. I think Grant County, Harris County, and I can't remember in Bandera. The 3 that I know of in Texas, and Texas has 500 plus open investigations for election fraud right now. So I don't know about any other states. That's kind of, my home territory, so I kind of pay attention to that. But that's really the job of the attorneys general and the district attorneys. Now in Texas, we have 7 district attorneys that are Soros bought and paid for. In Texas, 7. And the Secretary of State from last night in Colorado, also check the money trail. Soros bought and paid for Secretary of State. So Soros did this in Central and South America, his judicial initiative. He's had a Secretary of State initiative, and now he's even pushing down to district attorneys. And we're finding out now, even in small rural counties, that are, you look at a heat map, and you look at the large metropolitan areas, that's where he's focusing. Now he's working on the outer ring of counties because Texas state law is working to the effect that if there's an election issue, it can be held at an adjacent county. So he's expanding the ring. So that's really they're organized. Money they can outspend us 1,000 to 1 on any given day. So that's what we're up against. But really, we have the power of right, we have the power of the Constitution, we have the power of the majority of the American people. And it's not that we're the silent majority, it's we are the silenced majority. And that's really where we need to go. 42, Title 42 USC 52071 in the paragraphs, was it 1974? Okay, so that was correct.
Yes.
My brain doesn't connect every once in a while, so you must stuff rather than so any other questions on
Maryland taught from New Hampshire.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Tell them about the updates.
All right, so basically in New Hampshire, we have LHS, who services all of New England. Every state in New England is serviced by one person. So after every election, every single memory card is mailed back to LHS. We weren't able to save any of them. And Harry Hursti deleted the last 4 memory cards in the state of New Hampshire. So we don't have, so instead of preserving them for the 22 months, they break federal law, and then we were able to save 4 memory cards in Wyndham, New Hampshire, as all for the Wyndham audit, and now we don't even have those memory cards because they were wiped. And they were the last 4 memory cards in New Hampshire.
Okay, you want to connect the 5G Alliance 5G,
What we're talking about right now.
and
And why it's
capital A Alliance.
Because they're going around to the limit. And what they're doing is they're saying we're doing a system update. And they say we're going to do a system update, but they end up washing the system. That's illegal because all those images have to be saved, all that data has to be saved for 22 months, and I think you're getting away with it because what they're saying is, well, we want you to back it up. Most of them don't even know how to back it up.
In the state of New Hampshire, we were able to So basically what LHS does is, so Amherst, New Hampshire called LHS and asked them to have their memory card back. And they were like, okay, we're gonna send it back to you. And then the next day, LHS called them and was like, oops, it was wiped already.
Oops.
Literally what happened.
Thank you. So you people who are legislators and political leaders, you need to understand that that huge diagram back over for the showing all the chain of custody, steps this is another one of those incredibly important places where the chain of custody is broken. You lose access to all of those records that you're supposed to keep for 22 months by federal law. So the extent is it get like your system. Are you ready? Oh, I need silence. Good, but any more questions? This is good. Yes, sir. Well, it's sort of like, how many laws do you think were broken in the November election? I know it's like how many laws? There are an amazing number of them. And what's frustrating to me is I'll talk to some legislators and they'll say, oh yeah, we agree, there are all these problems. I'm going to pass some legislation. But I just think, yeah, it's like passing more laws. I mean, it doesn't do anything if you don't enforce the laws you have. So really this is about enforcement, isn't it? It's about you, and what's happening is nobody wants to enforce them. Nobody wants to do that work. And that's why, I mean, if the legislature's not going to do the work, then it's going to have to be us. It's going to have to be the people. And I think the legislators, we need to equip them. They need to know how to watch the people. So it's like we need to come in and we need to teach them where these are the failures, this is where you're breaking the law. And we're going to organize teams of supermoms to support you so that when you come forward to your state legislature, you can say, this is where we're breaking the law. Boom, 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 boom. It's not to be more laws. You need to enforce the ones you have. And maybe you need to prosecute some people. Maybe some of these $1,000 fines that you have. And then, as soon as you do that. Now, I don't know. I still think that's a long process. And I don't think we have time. I think we have to vote on this before the next election. And I don't know if we have time to clean up and prosecute all the old stuff. We're just going to keep losing it. I see your hand, Mr. D. I was the speaker before the president's speech in Wellington, remember? And he got up, and one of the first things he said is, it's like a joke. And it's funny, but it wasn't funny. He said, I guess I'm just going to have to elect me a third time. 2024. And that's kind of funny, but it's kind of not funny. Because there's no way we're going to ever win an election unless we fix the election. It's like you can't fix a broken election with a broken election. We have to take a different path than this. So my favorite example of that is with the Vail moms, remember, who threw out the school board and put in a whole new school board? That's what we have to do. We have to throw out the people that are not enforcing the laws and to go along. And if they're not enforcing the laws, let's throw them out and replace them with people who do. If your janitor doesn't clean your school bathrooms, you need to replace your janitor. So if your legislators aren't enforcing the laws, that's their job. They need to throw them out for their business. Boom. Well, the people are going to have to enforce it. As it applies, yes. I love this. I love the legislators that are here because they're making me better too. I'm sorry, I'm learning politics. Yes, sir. Me. Why didn't what? I don't know. Why didn't Pence? You have a better answer than me. I don't know the answer. One of my problems, well, I shouldn't say problem. I was modeling COVID all last year, and I had a scientific control where I said starting from February on, I wasn't going to watch any news or read any media. So I'm in the dark on a lot of this. I didn't even know about the insurrection until February. And so I tried to be objective. That way when I go into the state, I have no preconceptions. I have no biases as to what I'm going to find, and it keeps my analysis being so I'm kind of clueless about this. People always have to know about this person. It's in my little scientific cave. Right? So, all right, another question. Good question. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. The question is why do you think they let Trump win the first time? Okay, let me give an extreme example to answer that question. They didn't let him win. He overwhelmed the system. He overwhelmed the ability of the algorithms to deliver.
Okay. Let me go.
The rig was in. But remember what the rig is. The rig is to inflate the registration database. And that gives you a credit line to vendor voters. Well, you can only inflate the registration so much before it becomes stupid obvious. Like, what if I had twice as many people registered as I had people? Okay, and then what if 80% of them vote? Well, that's more votes than you have people, right? So if you have to inflate it that far to win the election, if you can't, right? And so in 2016, he was so popular, he overwhelmed all the predictions. Because remember when I showed you the in a nutshell slide yesterday? The first step is you predict what you think is going to happen. And then when you think you know what's going to happen, then you inflate registration rolls to put in what you think you need to take back the money. So you give yourself a little buffer. Well, if it overflows the buffer, you're in trouble. So let me illustrate something. So in the state of Michigan, actually Michigan is familiar with this, also it's in the criminal case, we're going to do a lot of investigation in it. In the state of Michigan, in the weeks leading up to the election, the Secretary of State, by executive order, added back into the registration roll 650,000 voters that had previously been legally removed. They had died, they moved away, they were inactive, for whatever reason, they had been legally removed from the registration database. She, by executive order, added them back in. Why would you do that? Because you don't have enough votes to win in Michigan. Add back the registrations to give you the credit line of voters you get. But she was called on it. I think the GOP, I'm not certain, but I think the GOP said, hey, you can't do that, that's illegal. The thing is, the way the law is set, and that's our problem, so we follow the laws and they don't. The way the law is set, when you add something to a registration database, you can't remove them unless it's a usable set of criteria. And it's very difficult to remove people. So after you added 650,000 people, they ran the algorithms to see who meets the criteria to remove, and they were only able to remove about 300,000. So by adding 650, taking back out 300, you added a net of 350,000 previously legally removed people from the registration database, right? But she had added 650, not 650. So she hasn't quite done enough. Well, what happened on election night was they're like, oops, we still don't have enough. Yeah, they don't have enough. So 11 o'clock, stop. We added in 155,000 more unique voter IDs on election night at 11 o'clock. We have all those records by the way. Unique voter IDs, and they vote and are tallied. And then the canvassing is enclosed until 3 in the morning. In other words, these supposed voters vote at 11 o'clock, and they have to wait 4 hours for their ballots to arrive. The ballots arrive, they close the canvassing at 3 in the morning, and so as part of the deferral case, we subpoenaed the list of names that go with those 155,000 voter IDs. And they said, yes, we're required by law to give those to you, but it'll take us about 2 years to compile. Cool.
Hello, everybody. Josh.
Hey, Josh, what's up, buddy?
So I wanted to give a quick explanation so y'all know what's going on. Hello, sorry.
Yes, keep it close, keep it close.
So I just wanted to give y'all an explanation of what we're doing here real quick. So I'm setting it up so that the three of us can be able to interact and manipulate the information as we can in real time. So y'all can see it, and then we'll work on the interactive part because I really want to find out from the technical people out here what information they can look at. But I at least wanted to give a little bit of an explanation just with the data that we saw, because as Ron was explaining, we have 2 images
before and after of an update. And
that's Mexico.
Correct, within Mexico. We also have another image. We have a lot of different information that we've seen, we've started to look over. Granted, this is on the fly within the past 2 to 3 days that we've had this information.
This is one of the reviews.
So, as we looked at the original, I have one drive that shows the original before the update. You can see the event logs, you can see the error logs, there's all the information that the system's gone on. And then whenever the update takes place, all of the logs, all of the event logs, all of the error logs, everything that had been seen previously was gone. So every time you watch and you look at an event where they say, oh, we were having problems with a specific system and we had to do an update, if the updates were performed in this manner, then every time all of the previous data was zeroed out and deleted. So federal law says that the elections groups all have to hold information for 22 months. So they can be able to have an audit, so they can be able to go back and track what's happening. And there have been workarounds in manners such as this where they say it's just an update. And for example, when I worked on the midterm elections in Dallas, at Dallas County Votes, there was an individual that we were dealing with, and on the computer system, we wanted to do a forensic audit on his laptop. And his laptop was sent back to the vendor, and they never gave that information to be able to look at, even under portal. And they claimed that then afterwards that it was destroyed. So I think for the legislators, when you have a product that's being paid for by the citizens, and the citizens are paying for $100 million per state for a piece of software that is going to be responsible for tallying their votes. Every step should be completely tracked and made transparent. If you ask the general American that is out there, what happens from the moment you register to vote to the moment that your ballot is put in storage, hardly anybody within the population can be able to say what happens from point A to point C. And it shouldn't be that way, because everyone should know how that exists. They should be able to look and see it. Because whenever you're setting up something that's really important, and it is important, people die so that you can be able to go and vote. And
some of those patriotic people I know are vets, or recently vets. Some people died, so we could have this. So they're not about to roll over.
The problem is, some of us stood on the roads in Iraq when Iraqis got killed so they could vote. Because I stood in Baghdad and watched them. And they all stood up and proudly held their fingers up with ink on their fingers. Right. A month after that, I have a picture on my wall in my house. 5 guys I went to basic and AIT with. I'm the only one that's left. Because a month later, they all got killed out in front of Taj by 9 people. So that's what it's meant. That's why whenever I see everybody try and say stuff about me as a person, it hurts me.
We love you.
So that's what it means to me. So when I'm up at 3 or 4 in the morning, every night for the past 3 years, going through this, it's that important. It's that important. So we're working on getting this so that all of us can interact with it and see it. And so we can work with answering your questions, understanding what's there, because there has been a veil held over this. And it's not because people blame proprietary. It shouldn't be proprietary. That's taxpayer dollars that are paying for it.
It has to be completely
It's not. The U.S. government puts a standard on government systems called NIST. But our election systems are under that standard, right? The EAC does not hold the election systems under NIST standards. So when you are in the military and you're working on your computers, you have Department of Information Management and all these other departments that make sure that everything is set up in a specific manner. But if you went to EAC and asked if they stayed in accordance with government regulation, they do not. And that's where the beginning problem starts to exist. Because when I looked at this system, there was a single file that I looked at that was made in 2016. And that file has been vulnerable since 2017 to where a hacker could do what's called a remote code execution, which is he can get into that system and take it over. And this is a system that we know went online.
This is amazing.
Yes. So when you know that system goes online, now I can pen test and look through every single file that was vulnerable, and I can generate that list. I went through 100 files of possible vulnerabilities. So far, we've already found 53 that are vulnerable, at least a 7 and above on the CVE chart, which it's a vulnerability and exploits chart. So there are a lot of problems.
I want you to say that again. So you've already been looking at the Mesa data, and you found 53 files that are vulnerable to outside hacking over the internet.
Right. Remote code executions, privilege escalations. So, and this was when the Black Hat event takes place every year in Vegas. There are a lot of really dedicated white hat hackers and guys who go out there, and in Voter Village, they test these systems. There were 3 guys who had tested and looked at Dominion, I believe it was 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. And all 3 of them, whenever they found exploits and they went to them and went to the vendor and told them, instead of them fixing it, they sent them cease and desist letters. And I talked to the 3 guys.
Why would they do that?
To keep them from talking about it publicly.
Because they want to continue to have it.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. Thanks for bearing with us. We didn't even know we were going to have these data until just 2 days ago. So we're all little on the fly, but this is way better than PCAPs. And this is equipping the politicians that are here way better than the PCAPs. That doesn't mean we're ignoring that other stuff. We're going to still do that. This is way better. I think that was stunning. They're working on it. Yes. The senator, yes. Amanda. Virginia State Senator. Your Republican member who sits on the State Board of Elections. I said there's no connectivity to the internet, and they're wrong. How do we prove that? So if we had forensic images like this, that would be one easy way to prove it because all the logs are there. But we don't have those images, do we? But we do have electronic recordings. So I don't know if you guys saw it on Sunday morning. For my Sunday morning devotional, I made a little PowerPoint. These are my objectives for the week. And it was like the 3rd or 4th bullet. was that on Thursday, I would be able to hand every attendee a list of all the IP addresses of every machine in the collection system. That was my goal. But you can see what's happened is we've all been derailed and we're kind of, it's a fluid situation. So I mean, that happens for tomorrow. And Mark, who was supposed to be the one helping me prepare that so I could get that to you guys, we took him completely off of that project and put him on this because this is huge. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna have that for you tomorrow, right? But you know that I'm willing to get on a plane and fly to your place and give that to you in person. Yes, but I just don't have it yet, right? But we will do that. By the way, you notice how technical this is? A lot of all this is, even we haven't really gotten into the data yet, a lot of it's really technical. We can't expect all of our legislators to be technically expert at this. So what we've noticed and what really works well and what works well throughout the country is, you know, we come in and coach you. We help you write, we bring you legal help to write all the affidavits. We bring you technical help. We bring our teams of experts in to come and help you to do all the forensic audits that you need to do. We teach you what you need to do. We help you, and that whole strategy works so much better than the initial November, December kind of bombarding the public with all the evidence and that we understand some legislators that conflict with it. Here we're preparing it against our. As a follow-up to that. Oh, good. You want it up here behind the glass? But after lunch, Sarah is asking everybody, or Amanda, sorry, is suggesting that all you politicians, you parlay up there in behind the glass to organize what you can do. Right, exactly, and that's why you need us. Exactly, and this is why this is really the purpose of the cyber symposium was to bring out all this evidence and have cyber experts confirm it and be able to convert it because it's 37 terabytes, it's a lot of work. And then we wanted witnesses to that. We wanted politicians to be able to say, yeah, this is real. We watched them doing it. So by the way, here's our evidence too. That was the original plan. It just hasn't caught it. And so. But at least we're going to leave with a strategy together. Okay. And so that, are you ready? Looks like we might be ready for a test. Yes, sir. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you, Mr. D, can you repeat his question when he asked Mr. D? Oh, there we go.
In the 3rd district of Kansas, congressional district, the Republican candidate lost by 10,000 votes. Yesterday, Mike Lindell showed that they flipped 100,000 votes in Kansas. There's only 4 congressional districts. So just averaging it out, probably the Republican candidate won.
Probably right.
Now, in Kansas, it's against the law. You have voting machines that connect to the internet.
Right. It's against federal law.
That's right.
It's against federal law for the voting tabulars to be connected to the internet during the election.
Okay, so how do we get to the bottom of this?
That's what we're doing. By the way, where are you, Jim Price?
That's right.
So Jim Price is from Kansas, and he is working. You need to team up with him. He's been getting affidavits signed, and he's one of your. I've been working with him and do a podcast with him. He's a good guy from Kansas. Yeah. Good sir. The point, and this is like
So just recently, the EAC, behind closed doors, tried to make it so that these machines were allowed to connect to the internet.
They would be allowed.
Right, allowed. Was the EAC, and they had the, what is the board? Yes, the board members with opinion voting, all the ESS, Art Pacific, all of
that they would be allowed.
They tried to see it in. And Philip Stark, who is on the, the EAC board member, is in a lawsuit trying to stop that bill, or not that bill, but that amendment to their rule. So
Yes, yes. One of the things you've noticed is that there's a phrase you will hear all the time that says, the machines are not connected to the internet. And you notice they all say it exactly that way. That's a very parsed sentence, deliberately said in that way. And sort of like what the definition of is, remember that? The definition of is, hey, I'll do her next. So there's this phrase, the machines are not connected to the internet. Well, if you think about it, if the machine's off right now, that's a true statement. The machines are not connected to the internet. That's sort of true. Also, they didn't say the machines cannot be connected to the internet. They didn't say that. They said they are not connected to the internet, which I think by extrapolation, what they're trying to get you to think in your head is that they are not connected during the election. But then you even heard Patrick say a minute ago that some of the preaching workers, as soon as the election is over, they like to turn on the internet and have it upload the data for them. So in other words, the machines can connect to the internet. Come on, you saw the Pearl case. He's got photographs of the car that's embedded, and you saw the movie. It's got the 3G and 4G cell phone card there. Well, I guess does a cell phone count as the internet? See what I mean? This is a parsed sentence, right? This is a parsed sentence. And besides, we have the recording, so stop arguing about it. Yes, dear. From Montana.
From Montana, you got it. 46 of the 56 counties of Montana use ES&S machine. The 10 counties that hand count are all green on Seth Kesher's map. So the county Republican chair says, no problem with Montana. We don't use Dominion. Have any comments?
Yeah, that this is one of the situations where you're being distracted by the dialogue. The dialogue makes it sound like there's one company that's the problem. No, all of the machines are active. It's not just about that.
Another point here is that if you look at the specific software, and this was a discussion yesterday.
This is a great discussion.
SQL management software that's installed.
SQL SQL.
Yeah, and so it's basically a database management program. Installed this equipment that's not authorized by the EAC, but you don't even need to go into the Dominion system or the ES&S system. You go right to the server and manipulate the data. So that's really what they were showing in the little loading group. That Packer piece is an SQL manager. And so it goes into the actual database, changes it, and pushes it back through the router to make the change on the actual system. So it's manipulating the database, not necessarily the host, but it will make sure that at the server level, those numbers match. And that's really the criticality. You've heard it probably 1,000 times. It's the criticality of secure paper ballots, and the reason that you audit actual paper ballots, not the scan ballot images, is because the scan ballot images can be manipulated on the RTR. You saw it up on the video with Misty from Coffee County, Georgia, the election supervisor, in the results tabulation and reporting terminal electronically changed votes from one candidate to another. So the audit has to include the physical ballot account, validation, in comparison to the electronic tabulation program. So the counties that are hand-counted, God bless you. That needs to be 100% across the board.
Cheaper and way safer.
And then Patrick Colbeck that day. Announce here real quick.
Hey everybody, I know we got a lot of legislators out here. As a former recovering legislator, obviously I'm in that mode too. I just want to make sure a lot of folks that want to get together and have a legislator-specific powwow. After lunch, after you pick up your lunch down here, join us up in Cafe Lobo. It's the best place we can get to kind of congregate, talk about next steps and how we can go off and nail down a good legislative approach to getting things like a forensic audit. What happens after we get the audit? Let's have some frank discussions about what happens next and swap best practices. Make sense? Right after lunch, come on up, Cafe Lobo.
All right, so notice that Patrick is a political advisor, we've got technical advisors, we've got data advisors, right? So we've got everything, we've got the package to help you with it. Yeah. By the way, the plan here, this is supposed to continue until 3 o'clock. And so that's a lot of time. We'll get to the last one. Let's keep it quiet here so that everybody can.
We're gonna roll back to,
I'll have these questions.
to Joe Monkey and the guys to review data, and then we'll be circulating around the audience for interactive feedback. So let them set the stage, get a quick comp check, roll.
Okay, go guys.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, we think we've got the audio problem sticks now, there's a big 10-second delay with Ron, so it's difficult for him to interact with us. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try this again, and we want this to be very interactive. So the cyber guys that are out there, please raise your hand.
Cyber guys, raise your hand. Yeah, good.
Okay, so we are happy to take instructions from you guys on what you want to look at. We'll just remote
I've been
control
sitting
it,
down all
pull
day.
stuff up if you
I
guys want.
stand up for a while.
And we'll give you a mic if you want.
Perfect. So some guy says, hey, look at that file right there, I want to look at that. Raise your hand, I get the kernel.
Yeah.
So it's good, let's look at it.
This is a group effort, okay? And the other thing, the disclaimer is, this is not a full forensic audit, right? We're just looking at this stuff. So we're not gonna make any claims, but let's just look at it together. That's all we're doing. Okay? So, let's see if we can
Well, it's not a forensic analysis. This is just a discussion based on the data, which we're about to look at.
Just a discussion.
And hopefully it's an open discussion. Let's the people on the Telegram to send in questions also, and if we can get the people in the audience to come up and maybe poke around too, that'd be nice. And then we can all just have a look at this and see what's going on. So from my position, I cannot see who is in control of the computer, but I assume it's Josh, right?
It is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Josh, I believe you had a look over this stuff like a bit before we did, because you set up like the VM and stuff.
So let me pull up this first file real quick that we found. And this is where I talked about the vulnerability.
I just also screen sharing. Okay, there it is.
So one of the first things we found was an admin script within the INET hub file. This was the vulnerability I was talking about earlier. And on this file, the origin on that was in 2016. And so whenever we pulled back and looked through it, the remote code execution vulnerabilities that were at least known in 2017. So we know at least in 2017, up until when the forensic image was done, the system was vulnerable in that one spot. And that was just one of the items.
Could you close that file?
No, here's the third file, INET hub. And no, we did not. They're all listed in this one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the college in Derby. No, it's not college. It's the biggest. It's like a 12A school. So, yeah, no, I actually my kids went to Roseville. How old are you? Oh, okay, so yeah, I went to Roseville. So yeah, we never played you guys. Yeah, the junior wrestling all it is.
Alright, so what you're doing here is you're loading
I got a
So EO1, which is a forensic image of the alleged server, correct?
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, that'd be great. And if you want to come on the show, and there's something you want to talk about, if you're hearing some shit on the street or you're hearing some things you want people to know about, get a hold of me. And I do a daily update on a Saturday 2-hour show. So I'm on 6 days a week. And, if I get ahead of the social media giants, especially my numbers, because I was at 10.2 million.
So in this file, right?
It dropped to 2 zeros. So I figured out their algorithm that they dropped 2 zeros on it. So instead of having 10 million, so about 1,000. It's just if they give me credit for having 10 million, then they have to monetize me.
Someone here. As we go through, when we go down and look through the forensic images and files, we can see the dates, we can see the information within the file.
What language is this?
It's quite coincidental that the video feed breaks and the live stream platforms break as soon as we start talking about this.
This is.
I don't know. I just don't trust it.
So I see a logs folder in the root of drive C. What is in that? Interesting. So the log files, those are the, looks like event logs. Are there any Windows cyber guys out there that know about event logs? Yes. Okay, so where are those event logs normally stored?
Depends on the software product, but those event logs could be in the master Windows event log file.
And what folder are those event logs usually stored in a Windows operating system?
It typically is a folder called events. I can't see, because I'm too far away, exactly what you're looking at on the screen. But there are some products that have their own event log files, and there are some products that put it into the master event log for the Windows operating system of that particular computer.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments on where those event log files are stored in Windows operating system? There's got to be some cyber guys who know this.
I have to make an announcement. So, at 1:20 Central Time, at 1 Central Time, your phones are probably all going to go off because of the national emergency alert and there'll be evacuation orders and all that stuff. This is only a test. So don't everybody go back to it. And don't be surprised if your phone doesn't work for a short amount of time and we might lose some of this stuff up. But it's all right. Just don't panic.
Okay. So we pull up a web browser. Yeah.
So that's where the event logs should be. System root is referred to.
Ron, I couldn't hear you say that again.
So the logs are probably in the System 32 folder.
System 32. 32, so let's go into Windows System 32 folder.
Wait a minute, Mark, this is a Windows system? So our machines are run by Windows?
Yeah.
Which version of Windows?
Probably a Windows Server operating system, and we can dive in and take a look at it. See,
Just noting that.
it's a common operating system that a lot of programs have used, so I don't think anything suspicious about that.
Okay.
What's odd to me is that the log file should be in a different folder, and I don't know why there's a separate logs folder in the root directory of Drive C with a copy of the event logs in it. That was weird. That's what I saw here.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the Windows System 32 folder. And then log files. That's where they should be.
It should be in the System 32 Win EBT folder /logs.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Ron, can you give us the full path of that folder?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat for you.
Okay, so it looks like, can we sort by date modified?
And to a big degree, part of the problem is that, first off, there is no actual such thing as a certified audit company. If you look on EAC, you will not find a certified audit company. So that's your miss number one. The second problem is, how many people other than EAC, other than these employees who everyone on the outside, because part of the problem is there hasn't been enough civilian scrutiny over this. I understand legislators have their taskings and their responsibilities, but it's the citizenry who are supposed to be that controlling mechanism over the legislators. And granted, I know that especially in this time, it's got to be really difficult for them because I'm watching all these people trying to blow up their phones and email them and constantly try and get them to affect change within this. But the problem is, just what we're doing right here. If you even ask, other than companies, but in these circles, no one has done this. No one has sat down and gone piece by piece. And that's what's needed to be able to understand just the basis of where these systems are, where the vulnerabilities are, and where the security needs for them. Because until last week, a lot of us who've been researching this for 2 and 3 years and digging into the weeds of it didn't even know that DHS was putting output sensors into almost every central account, and we're monitoring it from a SOC, or a security operations center. So it's all of these separate pieces that the citizenry needs to know to be able to be that counterbalance to make sure that this type of event never happens again. Regardless of what anybody says, I don't look at it as politics. Because politics doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, it's just play of words. This is an American issue. And that's why it needs to get fixed. And that's why there's so many people who are outraged about it. And that's why a lot of the media is scared about it. Because if these were control mechanisms, and I've sat in briefings, I've sat across from guys like Radcliffe and other politicians and explained this after the midterm. I actually had one guy look at me and say to my face, yeah, we know that's the case, but what can we do? That's what, and Dominion is going state by state and charging $100 million for 10 years worth of work for these systems. That the people have no confidence. From California to Maine, nobody has confidence in these systems. So, like for example, Louisiana just recently signed a $100 million contract with Dominion. That's $100 million in taxpayer money that can make better roads, that can take care of families, and instead it went into a system that nobody has confidence in.
$100 million, you could come on a lot of payment with a lot of supermom with that.
And the audits that they claim, these partial audits, these ratioed audits, That would even work for forensic accounting. So how would that work for something even more important such as big focus? And that's why, if they don't like the people who are coming up with the systems, we have enough smart people who work and give information to the government to come up with a better system that is better suited. Because everyone tries to get down into the weedy semantics of kinematic testing with paper or how they're looking at the ballots. Well, you make money, and money is supposed to be able to be made where you can't prove the forgery of it. So why not for something even more important? Your election ballot papers. So if you wanted to prove that it's legitimate, make a system that is just as important as your money, because it is.
By the way, he mentioned the Albert systems. The Albert systems are a system where you put in a network that detects intrusions and tries to prevent networks from being hacked from the outside. This is where, and if you look up the Center for Internet Security, they've been around since 9/11, and you put them in to try to defend yourself against outside intrusions.
Right, and also does packet capture, so it watches all the information that's flowing within the system. So the EHS feasibly should have been watching the election system all the way across.
It should have been.
Odie and I actually had a separate desk that was completely responsible for the security of the system, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. They had all these systems that were in place, but then you go and you ask them information about this stuff, they had no clue. And because I stood in front of them and I asked them the information on how do you know these systems are secure, and everyone's answer is always air gap. There are vulnerabilities within an air gap system. You also have side channel access, because that's a problem within SCADA systems, where all I have to do is watch the power coming from your computer, and I can hack the changes in voltages. So, air gap is an excuse.
Air gap is an insult to command. Interesting, tedious, but interesting in real life. Any other questions? All right, let's just stay with that.
I think that's what we're about to do. I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to get Ron into the system and communicate.
Excellent question. Any single
The server we were using for sharing is being attacked right now, so that's why it keeps blocking the video. So we're switching to something else.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. I didn't even think about that. Just here. Bring speech and then Linda TV. I didn't even think about that. I'm such an altruistic fellow. I'm a scientist. I just don't even anticipate all the malicious activity. I just think that way. You know, here we are setting up this very cool event, and I need to thank somebody who's backing it. But now that you say it, you think, well, of course someone's going to hack it. It's a cyber attack. Let me cross my line until I hang out there. I hang out. Oh, as Joe Holzer has been doing a lot of forensic audits around the country, yes. Has he been helpful to Mike and all of this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's not an idle gentleman. He's very busy. He's out there doing a lot of work. Yeah. I haven't been named directly with him. I've been on a couple programs with him, and that's my only experience with him. And I had one phone call, so I'm not really that familiar with it. But it's kind of not my side of it. The question, you know, how should we approach this? My motto is follow the data. So when a group comes to me and says, Dr. Frank, we need an audit, I say, show me your data first, and then we'll decide what kind of audit we need. So for example, if your election is completely paper, then we don't need any electronic audits. We do all paper audits. I like to let the data tell me what to do. Follow the data. Yes, sir. Rick Tap. Thanks.
You mentioned earlier that you studied Ohio, and that made me recall if there's still skeptics out there that the states they want to say they have the most secure election ever in 2020, but then why did all the states have 3,000% increase in unemployment fraud? In Ohio, I live in Indiana, and I got W-2 from Ohio, it was fraudulent, saying that I had tried to get unemployment. I never did. Turned out they had over $2 billion in fraud, 60 to 80,000 people they hacked in. I was looking at a statistic, and nationwide, $87 billion. One guy sent out requests using a fake social security number to 40 states. He received from 22 states almost $250,000. So if the states just couldn't handle their unemployment with their computers and all that fraud, but we're supposed to believe that they really secured that election last year? Just a comment. It's a good comment, and I can reinforce that aspect of it.
If you think about it, who's supposed to have access to our election systems? The Secretary of State, the local county clerks, and then the Department of Health and the Department of Motor Vehicles. Those are the official organizations that should have contact. If that was all who had contact, think about every county has got one point, plus there are probably multiple computers within that county, because the various employees that are working with the data. So it's multiple, just right there. Now think about it, now every Department of Motor Vehicles, how many of those are there in the state? Okay, how many points of potential hacking into the system are there? The Department of Health, every county's got a Department of Health. That they can use that data. So in other words, I just, typically say that I might have already just given you 1,000 things, 1,000 points of entry into the system. And you're telling me that all those are secure. It's just not like that. And my gut instinct, I'm not making an accusation or something, but my gut instinct is that's what cyber. You're buying access to all those points. But I would like to know, I would like to see an audit on every one of those buckets and see where they ended up. And they're buying access, easy access to multiple systems. Because once you're on any network, then you can activate across the network. So, some machines, some of our other activities since the election, we've noticed that machines don't just talk on the network, talk to each other too. So it would be good to track some of that stuff, see who was buying access to all of this. You have another question, right, Chad? Yeah. You're wondering how it's connected. I can't hear you, sir. Anything to the connectivity I can't hear it. We got Maryland Todd over here. This genius. Okay, so somebody says that machines are not going to need that. What are my three answers to that question? The first thing is if you talk to basic managers, they say the first thing you have to do is they have to plug in the Wi-Fi hotspot. They plug in the Wi-Fi hotspot. Some of those Wi-Fi hotspots, and the reason they need to do that is because then they allow the whole things are heavy stuff, and that happens over Wi-Fi. But you'll notice that on some of the Wi-Fi, they have to make this time. there's a little display screen showing everything that's connected to it. And when you fire up that bus button, you're seeing everything telling you exactly who's connected. You can see. So in other words, it's direct evidence of connection. And we also have recordings of podcasts that show the direct connections. And then one of my favorite ways to answer that question that people relate to is if you're a politician, you may know this. That during the election, before during the election, politicians know exactly who has voted and who has not voted, even on the internet. And you would say, well, that's just a robot. Yeah, but that's a hack. That's your hack. And so in real time, you have access to the vote. So I would say, that's my three. When people ask me, oh, what is that hack like? So when you're asking about how is it hacking over the internet, one of the things they do is they add voters when they need them, and they take them out when they don't want them to be discovered. And it happens during the election. This is not speculation. What's so fun for me is I did all the math, and the math led me to certain conclusions. And then when we actually went around the country and started analyzing the systems and collecting the data, we did exactly what I predicted. So it's like, everything wasn't exactly what it's close. It ended up being the right answer. So it's like no math predicting what I found. That's science. That's why you're awesome. You gotta be heard. No, you're awesome. That's not
So in New Hampshire, we have the diamond machines too, and what they do is they cut the landmines, but they don't remove the compost. So Ben Harris, a long time ago, proved that they made wireless modem comports for this. And so basically, a lot of time the diamond machines that New Hampshire uses, the dipole machines that New Hampshire uses, they're trying to manipulate by thinking that, oh, the landmines are cut, so it's impossible to go around. It's a lie. It's an illusion. They want to manipulate it. I know for a fact this machine can go around.
How do you know that?
Because I have proof the COM ports are removed. If they really wanted to disconnect the online service, they would disconnect the COM ports, not the LANs. A COM port is what you can use it to go online. Sorry, I took a computer class over how to build machines, but we have almost every machine tape in Connecticut, and we're going to be doing audits on Connecticut machines as well. Because like I said, one company has complete control over New England. One person has all control over New England. That's so important. But we do have your machine tapes. You have Nick. Shout out to Nick. He's been collecting every machine tape in the state of Connecticut, just like New Hampshire. So we're going to have an audit for you guys.
Why would you collect every machine tape?
Well, because you're rehearsed me, my friend. I watched Phil Chain, and one day, and this was like back in February, I was watching Phil Chain, and I saw that Georgia had the same anomaly as New Hampshire, as that happened in New Hampshire. And so something went off in my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need every machine in the state of New Hampshire, because you can see the anomalies. And tonight, New Hampshire will have every in the audit report, right? Your audit report form, and you can see every anomaly in the state of New Hampshire. Just page after page after page. It's really starting to give me goosebumps, and it's just so sad. But and Harry himself is one who gave me the inspiration. Sorry, the inspiration to go do this. So we also did it for Connecticut too. Rhode Island, Massachusetts. I mean, I just think the most important part of this is to know that one person should not be controlling 6 states. So New Hampshire's audit, I've been calling the English audit because of the significance of one man having that much.
Because all of New England has the same system. So by you doing New Hampshire, the same services. So by you doing New Hampshire, you're essentially doing all of New England by discovering what's going on there.
Yeah.
Now wait a minute. Who are you?
I'm here on the spot. I am a financial auditor, and I'm just a citizen, and I had no clue back in February that New Hampshire even had 400 hospitals. So I'm new to the political system. I saw that there was something wrong. I saw that the AG's office was ignoring it. I saw that the Secretary of State's office was ignoring it. And I saw that our media was ignoring it. And I just was like, there's something wrong here. I need to, if they're not going to audit it, then I'm going to audit it myself. Is basically what I said.
Thank you for that.
This has been one of my favorite things about being me right now, is that I go around and I meet people like that.
They are just normal people who are like, I'm just not gonna stand for this anymore, especially moms, those ones with the kids, right? They're fighting for it, they just look down into the faces of their children.
And that's what motivated me, is I don't imagine, I'm getting goosebumps about it. I can't imagine.
That's me.
I can't imagine my kids not being able to be president if they want to be. I can't imagine them not being able to vote.
So what's next for New Hampshire? Where are we at? You and I have been working on some stuff. Where are we at in that?
Dr. Frank is coming. He's going to do our R codes, our R lines, and we have a
correlation focus.
Yes, yeah. And he's gonna, and then, we have the audit reports coming out,
Where are they going? Where do you need coming
I'm gonna send them to, everybody that I can send them to, hopefully they'll go live.
Do you have any state legislators on your side?
We're starting to get some house reps, no senator. I actually called, I called one of our senators, and he said to me that if I can show him the Constitution that he can subpoena our ballots, like Wisconsin just did, that he'd do it, and that's after my phone call set. So, because we have Dan Richards, who's a Constitution, Dan Richards, shout out to Dan. He's a constitutional scholar in the state of New Hampshire. And so, we were gonna get on the phone with him, and then all of a sudden, we want to answer my phone call set. So, Senator Hayward, answer our phone calls, because we know how to subpoena the ballots. New Hampshire. New Hampshire.
I'm Lisa, and I've been investigating election fraud for over 20 years. I sued the Secretary of State of Oregon, who's now the governor of Oregon, Kate Brown. And one of the things I've noticed. Yeah, you keep this note. Anyway, bottom line is, what I've learned from studying both the elections in Oregon and in Kansas is there you look for, in each of your states, look for a partnership between whatever machine company, whether it's ESNS, Target or Civic or Dominion, they have a partnership and they certify only one printer, programmer, maintenance, and bulk mailing company. That company will be a different company in each of your states, or apparently in New England, it's one company for a bunch of states. So look for that certified company, and they are in cahoots with the electronic voting machines. And it's very important that you also look at the company that has been given the contract to manage the statewide voter registration database.
Yes.
Which started in Oregon, where Sabercorp was sold to EDS for $432 million. 6 months later, EDS was sold to Hewlett-Packard. Thank you.
So we also do have a movie coming out. We have about 300 clips of misconduct in office and the big sham audit that we had in New Hampshire. So we have all the documents, and we will be releasing that very soon as well.
So I'm Candace Taylor. I'm from Georgia, and I have a question.
attendance notices and other states that are here and what you're doing to actually hold people accountable to the Constitution. Because we know the fraud, we're getting it all out, praise the Lord, and you have to, your Constitution in there.
I think you're not gonna have a meeting. Is there something else you want to say? I'm sorry, I'm talking about it. Somebody has a question. Grandma from Montana. No, good boss. By the way, Tim is stage manager and production manager for President Trump's rallies, and he's here managing this. And I met him up in Wellington, and he helped me take care of my people out in LA. So it's nice to get to know you, Tim. Go ahead, brother.
Hi, Bill Allen from Washington. My
The
question
state
is,
of Washington.
yes, state of Washington. My question is ballot images.
Ballot images.
How important are the role they play in an audit?
How important are the ballot images in an audit? And
Second part, are ballot images public records?
Yes, absolutely ballot images, and that's what Dr. Sheehan discovered, right? He discovered that when the machines were scanning the ballots, they actually weren't just like counting the ballots. They were making images of the ballots, and then it was the images that were being analyzed for the counting. And the weakness of that is that you can scan a ballot, let's say with like a photocopy machine. You make a photocopy. You're supposed to put another piece of paper through and make another photocopy, and another piece of paper and make another photocopy. But what if the photocopy machine just said, just put one through and I'll make a whole bunch of extra copies? So that's the problem. It can just make a whole bunch of extra images. And you actually cut the machines to do that. Where they don't necessarily make, every ballot that goes through, sometimes they don't make a new image, they just copy a previous image if they like. That's why it's super important to have the images. If the images are actually what's being counted, you need the images. And then what you would do in a forensic audit is you would take all the paper ballots and compare it to all the images. And then you would say, oh, gee, the images of the ballot paper doesn't match. That's a huge problem. Okay. This is a weird situation, but I like it.
I'm Linda from Colorado. Colorado is gonna rock this, by the way. We are having a full forensic audit in Colorado. And we are gonna audit all 50 states. Audit50.org, you can find the information out there. Rico, so you